So what type of women do rich men actually like? Are you their type? Let's find out in today's video. Welcome back to my channel, my dear elegant ladies. Today we're going to do a little bit kind of for fun type of video. I am going to be generalizing quite a lot in this video, and we're simply doing it for educational purposes. I do think it's important to take into account that not everybody is fit into a particular frame. We shouldn't be looking into people as stereotypes, but sometimes it can be good to group people on a general level, just to kind of have a clear understanding of what direction people tend to go in. And that's simply the purpose of this video. One thing we also have to understand is that there are so many different types of rich people out there. There's so many different types of rich men out there, and depending who you meet, it will impact your journey differently. And you also should think about which type of rich men do you want to attract? Which type of rich men are you personally attracted to? Because let's face it, ladies, if you're not his type and you're interested in this particular type of rich man and you wonder why you're still single after so many years, maybe this can be the reason, because usually the type of woman that this type of rich man gets attracted to, you are simply not falling into that category. So maybe you should rethink your strategy, maybe do a personal transformation, or change your type in men. It's up to you, really. But if you do want to do some form of transformation, you know I do have an online finishing school called School of Affluence. Just visit schoolofaffluence.com. So let's start with number one. What type of women does the hip-hop rap type of guy like? Oh yes, he can definitely be affluent. You don't necessarily only have to be a celebrity in order to be a wealthy kind of hip-hop R&B styled guy. But what I'm basically trying to say, somebody who is a little bit more into streetwear, somebody who might be into some bling bling. I don't know, ladies, there are men like that who are part of high society, they're affluent, and oftentimes we find them a little bit more in the US, but we also have a few in Europe. Most times these men are involved in the entertainment industry somehow, oftentimes in the music industry. Maybe they are artists or maybe they are managers of artists and so on, but you do have them around. So what type of women do these guys usually like? As a general rule, they tend to go for the more Kim Kardashian type. It's absolutely fine to be a Kim Kardashian type, it's just very different from everything that I teach and so on, but usually the Kim Kardashian type, she goes more hand in hand with a kind of rich hip-hop type of persona. Now jumping to the total opposite, let's talk about the kind of trust fund guy, the old money type, the one who either come with problems or without problems. He can be flashy, he can be very low-key, it doesn't matter. This man, he comes from money, and he comes from a very perhaps snobbish family too. So for him, choosing a partner, it is actually quite of a choice. It's almost like we are recruiting for the royal household, because the family do have an input in terms of which woman he's going to bring to the house and pass on their legacy. Oftentimes, this character chooses the kind of plain but very elegant woman. She might not be a tenor appearance-wise. She might not really have a very particular face or anything of that sort. She's oftentimes the one who hasn't done a full-blown surgery in terms of breast augmentation or, God forbid, a Brazilian butt lift. That's why I say this lady is completely opposite from the Kim Kardashian type. She's more the very low-key, the very sophisticated, but kind of simple girl, even girl next door actually. With the old money slash trust fund guy, you also have to think about that he will oftentimes play around with girls who are a little bit different from the one that he settles with. But the one that he settles with, he really does it like 50% because of political reasons. And when I say political, I'm obviously referring to their family. And their first choice is always to find a girlfriend or a future wife that is also from a well-off family. Number three, let's talk about the Russian oligarch. So what type of woman does he really like? And is he always the billionaire that we think he is? While oligarch really stands for being of the mega rich in Russia. Okay, from my personal insights, I can definitely tell you that the rich men of Russia, they know that they have the power in their country and they know that they have access to all these beautiful women. They can literally pick and choose whoever they want. What happens is that you actually many times find Russian oligarch to either have the bombshell girlfriend, the kind of, Russian long legs, slim, beautiful face, everything. Maybe not so much with a provocative look, but more kind of, the Russian form of elegant look. Or you can actually find the Russian oligarch to be married to a wife that is not really that much younger than him. Let's say he's 50 years old. She might be in her 40s, and she might not be initially extremely striking. Surely she has average looks, but she's not a supermodel, and you have definitely seen better looking Russian women. So how come this choice? Well, a lot of Russian men are first of all quite emotional compared to other cultures. They can sometimes be kind of emotionally stuck in a relationship, even though they actually oftentimes also stray. And when I say stray, it is fairly common in Russia that men tend to have two lives, as we call it. They have a family with one woman, and then kind of later down the line, she gets exchanged for somebody else. And it's not only in Russia, of course, you have this in everywhere in the world, but it's fairly common with the rich Russian men. And it's also because, like I said in the beginning, there are so many beautiful Russian women in Russia, and there are so many more women in Russia than there are men. So you have to understand there is a very high competition of the men. So it's not fairly uncommon that a woman who has a goal puts her eye on a man and makes him leave his family and wife for her. Let's talk about number 4, the Party Playboy Guy. He is definitely somebody that you will see around in the hotspots around the world. You will also see him going to nightclubs. You will also probably see him post a lot on social media. There's going to be selfies involved when he's at the gym, when he's ordering champagne towers in a nightclub, and so on. He's definitely somebody who will, generally speaking, just go for anybody because in the end of the day, his daily goal is to get laid, pretty much, let's be honest. But that's pretty much in secrecy. What he shows of himself to the outside world is him and all these kind of IG models. Maybe once in the blue moon he gets the opportunity to have a little bit more high-level model, but this man, he is popular, he is out and about, he knows everybody, and he exchanges girls like he exchanges underwear. It is not a cliche, it is the truth. So a guy like this will probably never be looking for a wife. The few women who tend to back down a guy like this, who perhaps make him settle for a little while, oftentimes leave this type of relationship devastated because he ended up cheating on her. At least this is kind of from what I've seen, but yeah, I'm sure you won't disagree with me in the comment section. By the way, ladies, I have a free cheat sheet, Where to Meet Affluent Men. It's basically a cheat sheet with over 210 places where you can meet affluent men so that you don't have to waste your time or headache. Visit millionaireplaces.com and get this cheat sheet. Let's talk about number 5, the Arab. Or let's call him the Arab Prince. Somehow, so many women today, I keep hearing, everybody is involved with one prince or another, either from Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi, this, that, Dubai. I don't know. There's so many princes around that you can't even keep track, but I guess their families are pretty big over there. But I do also include in this kind of Arab Prince category the Gulf Arab men. So, who do they go for? I think it's pretty obvious. They usually go for and settle with their own kind, and that is because of religious reasons. They do not really settle with a foreign woman, especially if she has a different religion to them. These men are oftentimes Muslim, and this is part of their religion, so it's very important for them. But we do see them play around with any other women outside of their own kind, which is kind of funny because you rarely see them casually date somebody of their own religion. They do like to fool around with girls, with Western girls in particular. Maybe they go for the opposite attract type of thing, I don't know. But if you are, for instance, let's say a Western woman, you are not a Muslim, and you want to have an Arab prince as your future husband, then I will tell you it will be quite tricky. Maybe if you're lucky, you manage to convert and you get accepted that way, but most likely, no. So put those dreams on hold and maybe look for somebody in your own circle. Let's stay in East and let's go to China. Number 6, I'm talking about the new Chinese rich. And it can be any billionaire, millionaire, it doesn't matter. Let's focus on China and maybe Hong Kong too. I haven't been to China personally, but I have spent a lot of time in Asia and I've been to Hong Kong. So the Chinese that I met, it was actually quite interesting to me because I got a little bit of a culture shock. The Chinese man will definitely go for his own kind as well. I don't think it's necessarily because of religion. I think it's more due to culture and the way they are brought up. Family is very important in China, and of course, you have a big influence coming from your family too, just like in the previous case. I did get a bit of a surprise because I had actually never known that Chinese men can stray as much as they do. So a lot of the people that I met a lot of women who were mistresses to Chinese men, and I started to get curious about that. How come is that? And they used to tell me that, well, you see, Chinese men, they tend to marry kind of the good girl next door, the one that their family approves and so on, but they oftentimes get a woman on their side and it's fully accepted in their culture. It's almost like a common thing to do. Now, I don't know if this is the general rule across entire China. It's a massive population, but I'm referring now to the high society of China. And if you have any insights, please do leave a comment below so that we can fully understand the situation. But this is the impression that I got when I was in Asia. Let's talk about number 7, the tech billionaire or millionaire. And of course, we have to stereotype a little bit here and give you examples like Mark Zuckerberg. But ladies, the nerdy tech guy, he will always go for a regular girl. It is kind of almost written in stone. The few odd ones will definitely go in for their kind of teenage wet dream to get some form of model, maybe a Victoria's Secret model or who knows, but they tend to overall go for the high school sweetheart, or they go for somebody who is a bit more casual, a little bit more laid back, because oftentimes these guys, they don't like any form of flashiness. They would never want to be with a flashy woman or somebody who looks like a very high maintenance woman. They just want somebody who will accept them in their hoodie, or somebody who is not overly complicated or different from who they truly are. Oftentimes these men tend not to change themselves once they hit a certain amount of wealth. They really stay simple, they really stay just the way they were before, so they want somebody who is just simple. So any plain Janes out there, definitely go for the nerdy tech guy. Number 8, let's talk about the typical finance guy. And the finance guy, he can definitely come in all kinds of different shapes, sizes, and variations, and so his taste buds. So it's a bit hard to actually stereotype this one, but if we're going to really stereotype, let's do it in the typical finance way, meaning he's a little bit of a douchebag, meaning he's a little bit into the whole party / taking drugs type of thing. Yet he has his serious finance job, but because of the stress at work, he needs the kind of outlet of destructiveness on the weekend. So this type of guy can definitely be similar to the Playboy party guy, but somehow this guy is like almost like a mix between the Playboy party guy and the trust fund guy. He oftentimes look more like the trust fund guy, but he just acts a little bit more like the party Playboy guy. So this guy, he oftentimes doesn't really know what he wants. He's a bit lost in himself. A lot of finance guys are a little bit messed up, I must say, from my experience, from what I've seen, but you also do have a lot of great catches out there who are absolutely not what I'm explaining right now. Again, we are just generalizing, and like I said, the finance guy is a little bit hard to stereotype because there are actually different variations to him. But I do want to keep this video somehow short, so that's why I'm stereotyping him as the party guy in this case. And again, this particular finance guy, he will actually be seen with all kinds of different women as well, just like his Playboy party guy. But in this case, he goes a little bit more kind of in a more elegant way, meaning that he might go for somebody who is not totally tacky, somebody who knows how to behave, dress, and so on. And oftentimes he actually ends up settling with a girl who is above average, not a plain Jane, but not really the full-blown Insta model that you would think he would settle with. I guess oftentimes these type of men also settle with somebody who they feel brings them down to earth, because that's what they really need, really. They need a good base to stand from. They need a good support system. And if they find actually a woman who can give them that, they tend to put a ring on it. Number 9, the rich farmer type. And he doesn't need to be a farmer. He's actually oftentimes somebody who is not involved whatsoever in high society. He is extremely wealthy. Maybe it is through agriculture, maybe it's through something else, but he has not changed himself at all, or his lifestyle, or the way he dresses, or the way he lives, or anything in his life because of his wealth. You have a lot of people who might not really appear very elegant, but are very, very wealthy. They have probably kind of, I don't want to say it as they became rich by accident, because obviously there's always a lot of hard work behind, but they were oftentimes people who never sought out the affluent lifestyle or had the kind of corporate ambitions. They were just kind of doing their thing, and they got rich and they worked hard, and they just kept it that way, and they're not interested in anything else. So obviously these type of men, they would really go for the woman next door, for the women in their town, and they oftentimes don't live in big cities. These men, you definitely find them in smaller cities or in the outskirts or in the countryside somewhere. And if you ever bump into him and start dating him, it will oftentimes be because of accident, because you happen to be somewhere and let's say you started talking and you didn't even know he had money, but then you found it out later down the line, and that's pretty much it. These are very difficult to locate. You will never spot them in public. This one you literally just get by pure chance, or if you have connections in these type of circles. Number 10, and this is my personal favorite, and I'm sure you've heard this one before because I keep talking about the secret millionaire or billionaire type a lot. So what type does he have? This man who is wealthy, but he's not showy. He can be like anybody out there, but he's oftentimes actually quite decent looking. He does somehow look after himself, but he just does not flash. It's not his style, and I like him. Okay, so this man, he also goes for a variety of women. Rarely will he go for the proper Insta model or the Kim Kardashian or anybody who is too high maintenance, but you do have a little bit of that too, on the kind of rare occasion. Again, there is a variety happening with this type of man, but I would say if you are somebody who wants to level up, you might not feel like a supermodel, but you have elevated your look to a degree where you are definitely an attractive woman, then you are definitely this man's type. But the annoying part with this man is that he is hard to locate. So here you really have to get to him through networking and connections. And that's why I teach so much about networking in my online finishing school, because really that's how you get access sometimes to the best types, to the best men. I think that sometimes when you just kind of go out and fish, like, come on ladies, let's go out tonight and hopefully we meet some men in a bar or a restaurant. Of course you can meet any man on this list and you can have great success, but a lot of the times you will perhaps attract a certain kind. But if you do have a network, and if you are getting invited to dinner parties or events or birthday parties or weddings or whatever it is, then you are going to be exposed to a particular group of people, and especially men, who might not be the type that you see on the regular nightclub, bar, restaurant outing, or wherever you go fishing. So keep that in mind, ladies. Your network is your net worth. The more you network, the easier it is to meet Mr. Right, and that's exactly what I teach my students in my online finishing school. So that was it, ladies. Those were the men on my list. There are, of course, more types of rich men than just the ones that I mentioned, but I did want to include the most common ones. Let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite, and I do want to share with you another video of mine. Things rich men notice first in women and what they like. Jump over to that video because I will see you there.